All right, all right. I'm back. I just had to read something. I couldn't have it on screen. So let's do this illustration. Doink. Okay. So where are we at? Okay. I think today I'll focus on his head a bit. Just to see kind of where I can push it. I want to have these strong blues in there, but also oranges as the kind of forms turning. But majority of it I want it to be cool. But obviously it has to have warm tones in there. I think towards the where it turns form. But we'll see. We'll see. Lots of experimentations. Yeah. So now my kid is on Christmas break. It's not many days left for Christmas. He's very eagerly awaiting that. Which kid does it? Hugo, du sitter bredvid Lucas. Du behöver inte skrika. I told him that he's sitting next to his friend. There's no need to scream. Like he loves to belt it like when he's excited. Svensson art. That is classic. That is a classic. There, I think it's about like you're always keeping momentum and always the like same level of exertion. And as soon as you go on vacation, you subconsciously relax, and then in return the body relaxes, and then it starts to recover. And in order to recover, it gets sick. I think it is a is a very common thing that happens if you have a lot of like stress generally, and then you go on vacation and turn sick. That's what always happens when it's like stress related work. That is always like that. It's always like when you have vacation, you become ill. It's always classic. I think I'll zoom in a little bit more. I want to kind of, I think, push the personality a lot here now. I think I need to start kind of tightening the focal points. I know the focal point will be his face, so I might as well spend time on it. And I think the foundation that's been established kind of is good enough to more on here. But it's a tricky thing, like doing illustrations. Like, how loose should you be? Where do you need to tighten? So I always look on a second window. Like, I have two monitors, and I look at the zoomed out version, like trying to figure out where can I be looser and where do I need to tighten the render. And generally, you get an understanding of like where should there be high density information and where can I relax it with a bigger brushstroke. Yeah, I think it's a really important thing. I think not enough people do that. And also, I think what's important is not to be too careful, or not to be careful, not to be. You have to be loose. You can't be too tight. Sometimes words, they are confusing. Yeah, a lot of people over render. It's a very common mistake in the beginning. Yeah, looking at references helps a lot, because what tends to happen is that you find references that pleases your eye, and it helps you remind yourself of how to keep it loose to make it interesting. And reference, usually, like good reference, has a good relationship between edges and so on. And it's important to try to imitate that, but in your own painting. And like a lot of artists at the beginning, they zoom in too much and tighten it too much, and it just becomes this high contrast shape chaos, which isn't helping you at all. So usually, what's good to do is just take a big brush and go over it, remove information. So that is a classic problem of zooming in too early when that happens, because you don't see the big picture. The big picture becomes, when you zoom in, like, this becomes the big picture now. So now you're balancing all the edges based on this resolution or this crop. But in reality, the crop is way larger, because it's the whole painting. This is just a section of the face. Yet when we zoom in this much, we're looking at all the edges and relate them. Uh, at this scale, which can ruin a painting if you stay in here for too long. So the trick is to kind of like, I guess, like a ninja, jump in and out of the painting. And that's why zooming works really well, zooming in and out, or having two windows up, um, so that you can see the changes and don't stay too far zoomed in, because everything doesn't need to be super detailed, because what tends to happen is just stiffens the painting and removes all life in there. And also, I think, who was it? Alex Negrea um, talked about this in. He had an article on Muddy Colors, like his first article there, and he talked about color sampling, and that is something I'm really well aware of. Like if you sample your own image a lot, you're turning it just grayer and grayer because you're sampling the in between calculations of the color you're using. And he talked about in the article that by not color picking your painting, your colors are going to be a lot more vibrant, and that is true. I mean, when I color pick my paintings, I try to color pick um, the highest saturation I can spot. That's why, for example, when I do choose like this really saturated green, I try to find a place where I can put the most pressure so that I can always sample it and not lose saturation. So I always can introduce more saturation in the painting. Yeah, exactly. It's a very easy fix to do. Svensson, it's completely fine. It doesn't matter. Chat away. Thanks, Schmaze. Yeah, I'm looking forward to be kind of enhancing what's there. It's gonna be fun to put more personality in them. I think what's there is already interesting or fun. They look cute. I want to try to kind of dial it up a little bit more. Dennis, yeah, it's a common mistake. Like I said, a lot of people do that, and the people that can master it, they have this loose brush strokes but tight details, and you just sit there and scratch your head like, where do you even how does this work? You know. But it's practice and awareness when you're putting the it goes all the from the beginning of the foundation of the painting to the last brush stroke. Like how should you maintain like the balance in order for it to uh, read really well throughout, right? And it's a hard thing to do, which requires a lot of practice. And conscious decisions of like, where do I need to go back over and change? Like, it doesn't work as a big picture. Like, right? I need to kill this information. It does not aid the painting. Even though you really love it, like, oh, it looks so fantastic. But then you zoom out and go, I just spent an hour detailing something that doesn't do anything to the painting. And the biggest telltale of doing that is when you're having too much high contrast details, and you can see the pixels vibrate next to each other when you zoom out. because you've zoomed in and just added all these fine little high contrast details that as a painting, when you zoom out, doesn't work, because that relationship is arbitrary to the picture as a whole. So that usually becomes this kind of this static, this vibration you can see in the pixels. Just too much contrast. But I really enjoy the journey of trying to figure out these things in a way that suits me, you know, my painting style, if you may. You know, which decisions do I need to make? You know, it's the easy thing to tell someone like the theory, but then you need to implement the theory. And you can always copy someone, and hopefully that style is matching your way of thinking. If not, then you're just learning someone else's results, right? They have been thinking about it. They have implemented it, so they know that knowledge stronger. And the problem with that is you know, you're teaching yourself wrong when you're copying someone. But it also helps you to understand. So, you know, what can you do? You have to just find what works for your brain. You know, I need to remember cool shadows. Still haven't done that wrong, but I need to remember that. Just so that that relationship between colors are coherent. So that everything turns in form correctly. Easy thing to forget about. Just put some warmness here and there in the highlights, I think. They turned a little bit too cold. I love this idea of creating something that doesn't exist. You know, like giving birth to something. Sure, Schmaze. Go ahead. I want this little creature to feel a little bit like wood in the face. So that's what I'm gonna try to pursue. This kind of cracked wood feel, but obviously not wood texture, and obviously not wood colors. But I want him to feel like something out of nature. So I'm just gonna keep that in mind as I'm kind of adding details to try to keep that kind of bark-ish uh, feel. But also, like, he has holes. That's one of the things I wanted to try to capture in the design. That it feels like there's cavities in his jaw. That was one of the ideas I wanted to try to realize. So now I don't know if I'm going to succeed, but I'll do my best to try to nail that feeling of bark or some sort of wood entity. Hey, Quiba, good morning. So, looking at the poster, yeah, it looks cool. Now, you're starting to compete with details, and you need to take a step back and think about, right, where's the focal point? Where do you want the focal point to be? I'm assuming you want it on the bear's head, because that's where you go first. You go top left, bottom right in the Western world. So obviously you go down, but as you're going down the painting, uh, there's nothing to excite the eye. There's a lot of colors are going towards black. What you could do is you tone the darks like around his armpit and elbow and make them a lot warmer, so that you follow with saturation, and then keep the details. Obviously the smoke needs some lost edges, and you have a lot of the high density details there. And looking at the stomach, the bear, and the grass, like horizontally, it's a good balance between details. But it's a bit one way, one level of details at the silhouette of the bear. So you can choose where you want more details and soften some edges other places, so that we like flow through the bear and where we want to look. And the front grass is competing in sharpness. So we're looking down, and then we end at the grass in front of the bear. You might want to loosen that, or equalize the values closer to each other, so that there's not the high contrast, high sharp detail there. And think about, where do you want? Maybe you can have shine on the fur, on the shoulder of the fur, like highlight, so that we kind of flow through there. Just have to think a little bit more, and it's a good start. Uh, Thanks, Quiba. Thank you. It's a good start, though, Schmace. Don't get me wrong. It's just take a couple of minutes and think about where you want the eye to go. So it's a conscious decision, and make a new layer, and don't be careful with the changes on this new layer, but just kind of take a big brush and just go crazy on it. Like, okay, I want highlights there, I need to soften the edge there, just kind of sample some in between color, and paint away some edges, and add some sharper details somewhere, and kind of try to see how you can direct the eye. And when you've done that on that layer, you have naturally a better idea of where you need to go. So you can just hide that layer and redo the changes, but do it in a proper way. So that you can visually see the changes that needs to be done. That's my suggestion. Because now you need to start making decisions of where to where to add more details. All right, then think about ways to do that and experiment with it on a new layer. My pleasure. There's a lot of lack of saturation. You should try to think about where can you add colors of spots of saturation, like accents, to make it flow in an interesting way, and also make it convincing that it's fur. Fur tend to bounce light around it a lot. So it's very hard for it to be very like full range in the shadows. So if you look at a bear um, and the way the fur acts, it acts in a specific way. Fur itself is interesting to study. There's a lot of ways to do it. That was my thoughts. Just to find that nice rhythm. It's tricky. It takes practice. And don't try to over detail it with contrast. You need to figure out like where can you loosen and desaturate, and where can you up the saturation and detail. It's not an easy thing to do. Annoying. I've got something in my nose. Better form. Need to simplify here a little bit. Becomes a little bit too kind of repetitive. Need to remove some there. one thing also, like again with fur, is that there's a lot of bounce light in fur. Okay. Starting to think about zooming out now, fixing some colors over the whole picture, like where's warm, where's cool. Like how should I tackle the trees? I think what I gotta do is kind of put some warm tones on the lit side to help the eye have the warm coming from left, and then I'll cool the shadow side a bit using a little bit of this blue, but then also um, grayscale, some grays to just make it cooler. Otherwise, it's gonna be hard to really grasp the volume. You're still gonna see the volume because in value it's gonna turn correctly, but I want it to also read correctly in hue as a picture. It's gonna be a tricky thing to also add like sensation of forest within this. I think it's gonna be a lot of edges that will play a part in that. So it's I'm not gonna rush it, as this is just a private, personal art. I'm just gonna enjoy the journey. There's no rush to put it, like to finish it. I think I need to hide the top of it somehow. I'm not keen on the light of the head. The head, I think I need to help with soft light, most likely. Push some values back so that the turning of the volume reads clearer. It reads a little bit flat. So by me pushing the shadow side down a bit, I think will make it feel more spherical. Yep. And then I think I'll put some purples down on his jaw. Kind of purples. That's too red, I think. Maybe grays actually. Yeah, grays will do. I'll put some warmer tones in the bandaging so that the grays will have more strength. Yes. I do use selections, but at the moment, because this is especially an illustration, I want to try to keep away from it as long as possible. But I know I will use them to get those really crisp, nice edges. Um, but I don't want to jump to that because I don't know where I want them yet. But that's why I'm just tightening edges with brush until I'm really like sure that okay, here's gonna be a super hard edge. Then I'll just make that selection. Like the flowing uh, thing here in the back. I think in general it's too sharp. I need to soften some edges here and there. Like how it is on the tree here, it's a bit too much. So I need to have like I need to adjust because that was a selection, or it was actually a brush and then turned into a selection that I painted on. But yeah, it stiffened it a bit too much. But I want the horns, the left one, to have a crisp edge at places. I want the top side where it's blooming, the light is blooming. I want to not have sharp. So we'll see. So here I think I need to up the saturation brightness. Just to kind of separate there. Put some reds in there. I'm thinking of adding more these little red dots in the shadow side to help the eye travel down. That's an interesting sound from my son. So now we get that. Maybe it's a bit too much, I think. Maybe something like that. Yeah, all right. It's better. Not perfect, but better. Like using, uh, I tend to use a lot of like knowledge of colors subconsciously. That's why like I was reading Gurney's book about color and light. And when he was talking about gamuts and things like that, just like a cold shower like washed over me. Like I don't actually know that well all these things. I just react a lot. And I've noticed like the more I'm making decisions, like educated decisions, um, the better it actually becomes. So that was a little bit of a like an unpleasant read where you go like, oh, I really need to kind of practice this a lot more. It was not nice to realize, but healthy, very healthy to realize. There's nothing like hard, cold truth to wake you up. Yeah, definitely used later, Dennis. It's not anything I use at the early stages. Wonker. No, my brushes, this set, uh, is not online anywhere. Um, my idea is it'll be a part of my Patreon for free, just to kind of sweeten the deal. Um, for free, like I said, because a lot of these brushes are not my own, and it would be weird selling them, if not illegal, in that sense that it's not even my brushes. It would be kind of a douche move. Um, but yeah, I want to give them out for free on the Patreon, just like as a deal sweetener. But that will come next year. I tend to do new brushes every year, um, or do like spring cleaning, remove a lot of brushes I don't use, save the ones I've used the most that year, and I kind of keep evolving the the brush set. If that answered your question, I don't know, but I guess the answer is no. There aren't any of my brushes online of this brush set. There's old ones, probably can find on Google. I haven't actually Googled that, um, but most likely. I can actually Google it. You Only only a link to uh, what's his name? Aaron Griffith's brush set I shared on Facebook. It is what it is. So no, a Google hit did not give me any hit on my brushes. So now here I'm feeling a selection has to come into play because I want the edge of the horn to be super sharp towards the tree, and I want the tree to be very suggestive. So in order to get that balance without noodling everything to hell, I'll make a selection and paint the tree loosely while maintaining the edge. And what I will do is save the selection, and then so I can go back to it if needed to loosen things up or tighten things if I need to. Personally, what I love to do when like saving selections is saving it to the channel data as channel data. And that in that way, like Control Shift clicking the icon of the layer, you can get the selection for free. You know, so you can save actually selections uh, in your channels, which is fun, instead of saving it as a mask. So like, I want to save this. You just select the marquee tool and take save selection. You can write whatever horn top left, and in channels you see there's the mask. But if you Control Shift click the icon, plop, you'll get the selection. So I always have lots of selections in the channel window that I can use as I see fit. You know, like call up a selection so that you can still stay loose, you can still paint stuff, you know, very expressively. But when you need that control back again, you can just quickly click for the selection and get that sharpness in there. That's what I like to do. It's a nice little hack. And I switch between, I invert selection mode, so I can paint on the inside of the horn and then switch to the outside of the horn, just to like balance the sharpness of edges, so you can get the flow just right. If I do soft edges, you mean like soften the selection or manually soften the edges? I try not to make a constantly sharp edge around the selection. So I like make diffuse edges by painting it a little bit less sharp by sampling the outside of the silhouette into the silhouette, and the other way around when I turn the selection. But yeah, as you can see, like I wanted that edge to be super crisp, so that's what I'm kind of going towards. And now I feel like the this edge isn't helping the painting. I need to not to mimic the curvature. I need to intersect with the curvature so that it becomes a contrast point, so that we get the idea of the horn rather than the tree and the horn. The tree needs to be there as support, not as a actor itself. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling a lot. I don't know. Hopefully you don't mind it too much. Yeah, I know. Like, there's no feathering. I don't feather the things. Um, I use feathering when, like, you want to make a blur, like depth of field, for example. So an easy thing is, like let's say we copy this. If we copy this, it will be a hard edge. But like if you feather the selection, copy it, it's going to be very soft. And what you can do then is just kind of Gaussian blur it, and you'll have a very subtle like depth of field change instead of having a sharp edge where you can really see the selection. So you can do stuff like that quite easily with feathering. At least that's how I use it, feathering. Yeah, it's not gonna be like super exciting stream doing details, but hopefully you guys don't mind listening to me rambling. If it's boring, and if I mean the viewer count is 24 people, which is decent, but yeah, if it becomes too low, like it's just gonna feel awkward sitting talking to more or less myself. But so far so good. I feel like coffee's uh, a coffee is calling though, so I might need to go make a coffee quickly. Good morning, Ben. Shmei is right. Yeah, well, I really enjoy the sharpness, so you just paint the fuzz around the selection myself uh, afterwards, rather than yeah. Well, it's up to each of their own, right? Like how sharp you want the selections. But I enjoy the super zero anti-aliasing crisp pixel edge because I can go really sharp with it. And it's for me it's frustrating when there's like softness on the edge if when I want it really super sharp. So I'd rather have the control from the beginning where I can choose where it should be softer. But that's my personal preference. Hey, Mr. Freeman, thank you. There, Bart, that's completely fine. Thanks for announcing your presence that you're not. I do respect that you have to work, so that's obviously something that I don't. uh, I don't like how to put it without sounding stupid. Naturally, you have to work. I'm very happy that you still hang around and listen. So thank you. There we go. I just felt like that rambling just started sounding like an insult when it was far from it. So I had to go back and rethink my comment. That's cool there, Bart. And Schmaze, yeah, all right, cool, cool. I'll keep at it. Another good little trick, like if you have too high contrast details, you don't want to paint away the light information. Uh, a really cool little layer is you use a lighter color layer setting, and you can paint the darker part away. So what lighter color does is that any value underneath, like what I'm sampling, so everything from here down will be replaced with this value. So if I put that here, paint with this color, all the values underneath here will be replaced with this value. So like you can boost the saturation and increase the brightness. If I go back over the black again, you see how only the darks gets this warm tone, and it's a really good way to like fix your mistakes when you've like overcomplicated the render, where you zoomed in and used too much black. So it's a nice little quick way to add lots of saturation in something that you've done mistake on. And because you're not painting in the lit range, you can get some nice control there. I'll be right back. I want to make a coffee. I need some thinking. Be right back. I won't close the stream. I'll just walk away the office. Ooh, hello, I'm back. Just made a coffee. Passenger, yeah, Rogue One is amazing. Really good movie. Hello, Mr. Panka. Good morning. I was at zero passenger, yeah. Oh, such a nerd joke. I feel like there's some shapes, definition of shapes missing in his face, but I'll get to that later. Now I worked a little bit on the head, starting to kind of figure out where the focal points should be. So I want to mirror some of him into the horns, like the cool colors, just to give it life a little bit, so it doesn't go so turning into black, because that is never an exciting palette when shadows are black. So that's that is hilarious. Like talking to yourself, literally. That is some funny stuff. I need to close the office door a bit. My son and his friend are playing multiplayer Minecraft. Going crazy. Lobby. Smith benotet, ja? Nej, det var det. Forever alone. Yeah, but that's why a little bit why I decided to do warm-ups on Twitch, because it's fun with like-minded people, to hang out with. Otherwise, it's so easy to just kind of encapsulate yourself and not realize that there is people in the world, and it's not robots on Facebook, it's actual people, you know? Hey, Amir. Yeah. Yeah, yesterday was just a 1 hour. Today I'm gonna try to have a little bit longer one. Um, yeah. Yeah, I wanna. I will definitely not finish this one before Christmas, but this is one of the illustrations I want to finish uh, for portfolio reasons. Uh, as my movie project is reaching an end, I can finally start relaxing a bit. Um, so I'm gonna start making games and some personal art again when I have more free time. So the games are going to be the project aspect of my free time, which I'm going to try to do like half of the week of spare time, so that I'll be doing games, and the other half of the spare time I'll be doing personal art. Just like looking at my output publicly this year is like almost nothing publicly, comparatively, like when I don't have a project, or rather, I should say, when I don't have projects. I have a lot of projects all the time, especially this year. I had many, and yeah, the tendency then is just you go silent, except like client work when they do release it, but then that tends to always be old uh, and not that interesting because it's not personal art or whatever. Not saying that I do shit work for clients, but it's a client's idea in that sense. It, it's fun to do. I love doing it, but it's not compare. You can't compare it to personal work, where you're free to flex your own art direction and all these things. You always have to adhere to clients' art direction. Sense in art. Yeah, I see people all the time through my window. With my binoculars, spying on people behind the curtain. So I'd like some more personal time for my own art, which next year is one of the things I want to focus on. I'm gonna finish one project, start a game project, and that game project obviously will be done kind of in a public space. I will definitely stream the process and things like that. Um, Go get back into game dev again on personal games. I really enjoy that. I really like being like my own art director. Um, Obviously, I've done it professionally as well, but it's different when it's your own project. And you can change something completely. You can't do that on a for if you're art directing a client's IP. They have to answer to people with money and all these things. It's a lot more complicated matter. that's, that's hilarious. So, and Captain Jetlag, that's a good one. Good play on words. You only see feet. That's hilarious. I have not worked with Bifrost in Maya. Unfortunately, I cannot help you. I need to remove the kids from the PlayStation. I think time is up. Be right back. Love it. Gently. Gently. All right. It's an interesting thing. Like my son speaks three languages, and his friends are obviously Latvian, and they speak Latvian. So I have to communicate with both in Latvian, which is always fun to wrap your head around. Like yet another language to learn. But I don't mind. It's a fun process. but my Latvian is not at adult level. Like I can't really have a discussion in Latvian with adults. With kids, it's no problem. You know, it's very basic in that sense. But grown-ups, it's like I'm not there yet. I haven't taken any courses. I've just kind of absorbed the language by osmosis. But I should really. I don't think it will be any problems learning. It's just I don't talk with enough adults at a regular basis um, to be forced to use the conversational Latvian. I go in and point and go like do the pirate sign for you're done. Captain Jetlag, yeah, he speaks Swedish, English, and Latvian at a level where he has top grades, you know. Except he doesn't have Swedish lessons, obviously, so he can't get grades, but he can go to Sweden and talk to any Swedish person flawlessly, you know. Which is also an interesting topic, is because I'm the only one speaking Swedish to him. And I'd say luckily I've always had the respect for the Swedish language, that I don't want to use slang. So I hardly use slang in my Swedish. I like the book version of Swedish, and I like on purpose tried not to have accent in my Swedish, local accent as well. You know, like I like the idea of like a pure language for some reason. So my son's Swedish is pretty good. Obviously, you can hear an accent because he speaks three languages, and his Swedish is not the primary language. Obviously, Latvian is his primary language, but his English is as good as his Swedish, which is pretty damn good. Thank you very much, Shmaze. Have a good day. Thanks for coming. You have the Norwegian version of a hillbilly accent. But you're out on the countryside, right? You're not like in a capital or a major city. There are. Yeah, I lived. Me and my wife, we lived in the UK for like 5 6 years, and there was no Swedish people around. So what happened was my internal monologue switched from Swedish to English. Uh, that was the weirdest moment when your internal thoughts are in English. It felt so weird. Like the day I was like, whoa, I'm not thinking in Swedish anymore. That's really cool, Ben. That's good. Which languages do your kids speak? That's cool. That's cool, Sensei. I bet it's pretty. Can't go wrong with nature. And Norway has lots of it. That's cool, Captain Jetlag. That's some cool languages to know. There's very a lot of branch languages that you can absorb by learning those two base languages. That's really cool, Bin. So she'll learn Cantonese and English and Dutch. That's pretty cool. Knowing Dutch, she can also. I'm assuming your kid is, yeah, her. Uh, Knowing Dutch, you'll almost get German for free. It's a very similar language. I speak German as well, um, and I can understand Dutch, most of Dutch, uh, by default, just because I speak German. That's cool for 4.5. It's good. You gotta get them early so they don't know better. Like my son doesn't know any difference. He knows that like you should have 3 languages. That's it. And his friends, he's surprised by his friends that they don't. Why? All right. I'm gonna stop them from playing and open the office door and have them in their room. Abi, beidzas. Ja. Nee. Nee. Slack. Nee, Slack. Ja, vai zīme vai. Bet nav tev ir beidzas. Gribēs? Kas būs? Pasta un tunčis vai cepta maizīte? Maizīte. Maizītes. Maizītes? I'll be right back. I need to make lunch for him. Actually, you know what? I think in order just to kind of maintain them, keeping them alive, I can't stream at the same time. So I gotta quit the stream. But thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for hanging out with me. This became like a 1.5 hours extra stream, which is not ideal, but what can you do? My son got his friend over, so I have to take care of them. All right, thanks everyone. Tomorrow will be warm up as usual and extra stream, um, most likely as well. So thanks everyone for coming. Good night, good day, good luck. See you tomorrow.